welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Shirley Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man that just ate a delicious fish meal. It's Norbert Morvan.
Don't worry, Mark. I speak jive.
What did she say when she walked away from him after their argument? What was...
Like, jive-ass fool don't want no help, ain't gonna get no help. Jive turkey ain't gonna do nothing anyhow. Yo.
I watched this movie when I was so young because of the PG rating. There was just no... I mean, this is before PG-13 came into existence. And I remember this... this PG movie was a big fan... I was a big fan of this PG movie growing up. Because... they don't make PG movies like they used to. I'm sounding like an old guy. But... Oh, man. And, oh, gosh. And I gotta tell you, Norbert, in preparation for this, I listened to the commentary. I read a bunch of articles about this. I watched all the DVD extras. There's a thing on the Blu-ray where they play the movie, but then they stop it, and then they have the cast members talking about certain scenes and showing deleted scenes. And there's just so much to cover about this movie, because this could have easily just become you and I just quoting the film. Like this, basically reading the script back and forth, because it's so rich with jokes. I mean, Sperm Monthly, isn't that what
it's
modern
infinitely,
sperm?
It's infinitely quotable. It's the definition of throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
They throw shit at a fan, Norbert.
They literally do let the shit hit the fan. That is absolutely correct.
Before we get into this movie, though, we gotta give some respect to Julie Hagerty, because every article I read, it's Leslie Nielsen, it's Lloyd Bridges, it's Robert Hays, it's Robert Stack. But Julie Hagerty in this movie, she is the glue that holds it all together. I mean, she has to deal with Otto, the pilot. Just her reactions. Deal with him. Yeah, her reactions to the guys who are speaking jive when she gets their orders. Just the dancing scenes. She is the unheralded MVP of this movie. Just like Holly Hunter is the MVP of Raising Arizona. And she's not 100%. Talked about that much. Like, we covered that too. So we just got to give some love to Julie Hagerty before we get into this.
Oh, listen, the physical comedy that Julie Hagerty pulls off, the straight man roles when she's delivering these lines, oh, well, it's a small room that's on the side of a house. It's not important right now. She's great. She delivers her lines perfectly. She does that excellent dancing when the guy got stabbed in the disco club. And he's pointing at the knife in her back. And she says, yeah, okay, it's a new dance. I'm down with it. She's so unaware. And she absolutely, as you say, deals with the autopilot. And then they smoke cigarettes afterwards. And she shoots him this look like, was it good for you? But she doesn't actually say anything.
Yeah, that look. I told Megan, I'm like, well, did you see that look? It's so good. And I just think she's just unheralded, man. Her performance... And, listen, everyone else, I mean, casting Leslie Nielsen, right? Casting Robert Stack, Peter Graves. Genius move. And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, by the way, is Roger Murdoch. Roger.
No,
what?
not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, okay? I'm Roger Murdoch. I'm the co-pilot, all right?
That was originally supposed to be Pete Rose, by the way.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Pete Rose would have nailed it, too, though, because Pete Rose is a silly guy. He's a silly guy. I've heard him on sports interviews. He would have nailed it, too. But the fact that it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, it was so fit. Again, the physicality of this movie. So he's 7 feet tall in this 2-foot box in the cockpit. And I'm Roger. I'm the co-pilot. And he's just very, very believable. I believe I would let Kareem Abdul-Jabbar fly me around to this day.
Oh, man, he's so funny in this. And what's interesting, he wanted $30,000 for this movie because he wanted to buy a rug. And the directors, Jim Abrahams, Zucker, and Jerry Zucker, they were like, oh, sure, yeah, $30,000 rug. But then he did the movie, and then they saw a picture of him later with this $30,000 rug. So he did the movie to get a $30,000 rug that he could have.
Even at the time, basketball players were not making sports athletes in general were not making the salaries that they are today. Mm-hmm. But he was the star on the Lakers, multiple championship, Hall of Famer. They had to ban dunking in college because he was so good at it. All right. I mean, that's how good Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was. So he absolutely wasn't broke. So yeah, give me a little $30,000. I'll be in your movie for 2 minutes, whatever. I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor anymore, baby. found a lot.
I'll do 3 days in this film. Oh man.
Then I'll go back to murdering the league.
I love it. You try carrying people on defense, and then that kid, they hold the reaction shot on that kid for about 14 seconds, and that kid just looks shocked. But Dude. Oh man, It's so funny. And they made the movie in August. They couldn't get Pete Rose because he was playing baseball, so they didn't even think about that. That's where these guys, it's a remake of 0 Hour. There's this movie they saw, all this, but they got the rights to it, so they were totally allowed to remake the thing. And on set, they're like, what's our next shot? I don't know. What does it look like in 0 Hour? So they would just put 0 Hour on, put the thing on, and there's a scene, Norbert, and we covered Soy Married an Axe Murderer on the podcast probably a couple of years ago, and Mike Myers had a lot of arguments with the director because the director wanted to do Steadicam shots. He really wanted to make it cinematic. But Mike Myers stressed, he had a thing like Two-Eyed Jack, no laugh. I don't know. He has this thing where you have to see both eyes. And traditionally in comedy, when you tell a joke, you want to see both eyes of the character telling the joke. You don't want to see the side of their face. You just want to be looking right at them. So that's why a lot of
reaction, right?
Exactly, right? So many comedies are flat because it's about servicing the joke, not the like Steadicam shots or the dolly shots. But in this one, they got Peter Graves and Leslie Nielsen staring at each other and just telling jokes. No, one eye each. Like they said it themselves. They had no idea what they were doing. They were just mimicking shots from 0 Hour. And they're like unconventional joke telling. And I think that's why this movie's so funny, because it's not doing the traditional comedy thing, both eyes, static shots. Like they've shot this because they didn't really know what they were doing. Right?
This is what it is, man. And so another thing is a lot of the straight actors, and when I say straight, these are guys who Leslie Nielsen was a dramatic actor at the time. Robert Stack, this is before the classic Everlasting series Unsolved Mysteries. He's also a dramatic actor. One of his last roles was the voice of Ultra Magnus in Transformers the movie, for God's sake. Peter Graves is one of the leads in Mission Impossible, the TV series. So these guys are in the movie, and at the time, nothing like this had ever been. The closest thing to Airplane was Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah.
In terms of straight actors who usually do dramatic stuff, suddenly in this comedy, and there is no laugh track, because this is the height of laugh track stuff. Okay, if there's no laugh track, quote unquote, people don't know when to laugh. Mm-hmm. So putting these people in here, having them deliver these ridiculous lines to each other with no reaction, or kind of maybe a head tilt, like, huh? It was, people didn't understand this movie in 1980, and then they went on to make Naked Gun, the TV series.
Cigarette?
And it bombed. Yes, it is. They go
Those are red, violets are blue, and I'll break your face.
Yeah, I'll break your face. Oh God, I don't think I'll be able to make it through this. These are my favorite comedies.
You showed me that, Norbert, in 2008.
Yes, that's right.
You sat me down and you showed me Police Squad on. Like I think probably the first 2 months I was there, you showed me it.
Dude, just brilliant.
I'll break your face.
And so that show bombs, and people are literally saying, when am I supposed to laugh? I don't understand what's going on. There's no laugh track. And then when does their validation come? When the movie, The Naked Gun, comes out, and they're just copying and pasting exactly a bunch of jokes from the Police Squad series.
Yep.
And so this movie is it's a touchstone of comedy, man. Like, there was comedy before Airplane and after Airplane.
When I talk about the funniest things I've ever seen in my life in regard, like the scenes that I love most in cinema that have made me laugh the hardest, I always go back to Dr. Strangelove when he's talking to Dimitri. Hey, Dimitri, can you turn the music down, please? Thank you. Oh, why are you mad? I'm not mad. Well, why are you saying that? Well, that's not my... And then when they have an argument about shooting government property to get quarters to stop a nuclear missile from destroying the world. And just the beautiful, absurd George C. Scott giving everything he has in that role. And then I look at Royal Tenenbaums, the tennis scene where Richie Tenenbaum's mad that Gwyneth Paltrow married Bill Murray. And he has 72 unforced errors, and he's playing a guy called Gandhi in tennis. And 72 unforced error means every single time, every single ball, there was an unforced error. And he only had one sock on. And just the way that they narrated it, like he has 72 unforced errors and he just sat down and he only has one sock. Like they play it so straight, Norbert. So straight. Yes. The conversation between Owen and Luke Wilson in Royal Tenenbaums when they're going back and forth between those shirtless guys with the masks on the ATVs, and they're both going, huh? What? Huh? Oh, I thought you said something. No. What? I love it when humor is just so, it doesn't tell you, and it's just so dry. That's the hardest I've ever laughed, and that's the same with Airplane. Like the Shirley, yes, and don't call me Shirley. Just the bits in this movie. Yes. And this movie also, this was your suggestion, so sorry I keep talking, but this is the product of three guys who were relatively inexperienced in show business. This is not a movie that's made by veterans. This is, right. It's kind of unsafe. There's people hanging themselves, stabbing themselves. There's a guy who was about to light himself on fire. There's just nudity. There's pedophilia jokes. There's kids telling raunchy stories. There's there's just every weird things. But then there's also this really odd humor about the coffee. Like, he never has 2 cups of coffee at home. Like, it's such a weird hybrid. And I just love it. This is something that inexperienced people make. Not inexperienced, but just people who haven't been jaded yet or get a PG-13 rating yet.
Totally. That coffee thing was a combo of an old school commercial from back in the day and also, just romantic dramas at the time. He never does that when he's with me. I wonder why. Maybe he's cheating on me. That's the whole thing. Yeah. But then they take it to a ridiculous place, This is, man, you know what else, too? I think their first movie was the Kentucky Fried Movie.
Yeah.
Where it was basically Saturday Night Live, the movie.
But Big Jim, and didn't they have the
Big Jim Slade!
The 4D theater?
Yeah.
That guy was so funny. He was getting his, shoulder rubs. They found the funniest extras in this movie, too, by the way. Oh, my God. And Kentucky Fried Movie. The extras that they find are pure gold.
They did. And they definitely pushed the envelope, and they definitely told the line with stuff. The brothers who speak jive, somebody today, oh no, what are we doing? Come on, man. Everybody's in on this one. And this and the lady who comes up, excuse me, I speak jive. Today, jive is known as AAVE, African American Vernacular English or something. It's a brilliant movie. They take a lot of big swings, and most of them land. It's good stuff.
Those guys even came back for in the commentary, Abrams, Zucker, or Zaz, I guess, they're talking about how they just wrote the first couple lines of the dialogue because they're like, we're 3 dudes, white dudes from Milwaukee. We didn't want to tell these people everything. So then they just gave it to the 2 actors and let them come up with their own stuff. Well, so I think that it just reads better, too. And then they apologize to him during the auditions. But
100%.
I just love, but all the different jokes. Like, remember when? Can I get something light? Yeah, here's a book about famous Jewish sports legends. I mean, it's just a
pamphlet. It was like a pamphlet, Oh my God.
It's just such a silly, and then just Lloyd Bridges doing glue and then hanging upside down at the end and diving outside of windows.
I don't think there's anyone in our generation that has a sense of humor that in a stressful situation does not just come up and say, looks like I picked the wrong week to quick sniff and glue.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen that so many times.
You don't understand how many times I've said that.
Yeah.
You don't understand how many times people, how would you like your coffee? I just say black like my men. And they're just, what? That little girl said that to the boy. Yeah. And his face. He couldn't believe what?
He sells that reaction. That kid's reaction is gold because he's still a child going, huh?
Yeah. Wait, what?
Hey, Norbert, how about some coffee?
Oh, yes. Sure. I'll have some coffee.
No, wait. Doesn't that guy say, no, I'm fine? Doesn't Johnny say?
Oh.
And Johnny?
Oh,
my God. Lloyd Bridges keeps asking him for coffee. And then Johnny's like, no, I'm good. So you know how they met him? So Zaz, they had a comedy troupe in the Kentucky Fried Theater in Milwaukee. And he showed up one day to be their piano player, but he was just dressed the nines, all decked out, and they loved him. So they're like, you got to be in our movie. Yeah. They're like, you got to be in our movie. And he has a big role in the film. He has a lot of featured stuff in here.
He does. Lloyd Bridges gives him the pay.